Walker Kessler goes head-to-head with Dereck Lively, Daniel Gafford, and stands out. Jazz defense, the stalwart tonight as they win their third straight preseason game. We're talking about it next on Postcast.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
David Locke along with Ron Boone as the Utah Jazz defeat the Dallas Mavericks 107-102. They win the game wire to wire tonight as they pull off the victory. Ron, I think the headliner's got to be Walker Kessler tonight. 9 points, 15 rebounds tonight, 24 minutes going up against Daniel Gafford and Dereck Lively, two bona fide centers who carried this team to the NBA Finals last year. They didn't have Luka Dončić, so it wasn't as imposing, but I thought Walker held his own and was superior to both of them tonight.
Throwing a couple of block shots there as well. But I think what's really impressive with them, both of those guys are pretty lively. I mean, they're active. They're moving off the basketball. They can run the floor. And so that was very impressive, I think, as far as Kessler is concerned, because not one guy, but he had to handle two guys here tonight.
So really, the Jazz, I think, have to be pleased as much as anything. There's two things the Jazz are trying to do defensively. One is they're trying to get the ball off the rim. They're trying to deny teams to get to the rim. Walker playing a little bit more drop. They're trying to do things on the dribble drives to keep Walker involved. And the second thing is they want to take away corner threes. The Mavericks took, again, no Luka, but the Mavericks took the most corner threes of any team in the NBA last year. Number one, 13%. They were 0 for 2 in the first quarter, 0 for 1 in the second quarter, 0 for 1 in the third quarter. By the end of three quarters, and they didn't play, they played some of their guys in the third quarter. None of their guys played the fourth quarter. I'm just going to throw all those away. They were 0 for 4 for corner threes. The 0, you're just getting lucky. The 4 is the number that matters. The Jazz only allowed 4 corner threes in the entire first 36 minutes game against a team that usually is putting so much pressure on the rim that you're collapsing and getting out. That, I would guess that Scott Morrison, who's overseeing the defenses here, and Will Hardy are ecstatic about.
If this is going to work, and we watched enough now to where they're definitely they a better job, and they're working very, very hard of not letting teams create a mismatch, which means they help and then they recover back to their man. And maybe that's helping with the corner threes there as well. We'll have to see going forward if that's something that they're doing that's helping eliminate some of those corner threes. But defensively, you can see the Scott Morrison and the guys are trying to create different things that help this basketball team win defensively. And as you mentioned, that corner three it's a shot that I think every team in the NBA does not want to give up. But when you can do it, then it gives you an excellent chance to win.
From a Mavericks standpoint, the headliner tonight was Klay Thompson playing his first game. They didn't have Luka Dončić, but they had Klay Thompson. That'll be the headliner the whole night. What was your impression of his 18 minutes tonight? He went 3 of 9. He hit 3 threes late. He had 10 points. I believe they were minus 19 in his 18 minutes tonight. What was your impression of Klay Thompson today?
I think I have to see a little bit more of him in this system, especially when Luka's on the floor. His debut here tonight, do you know he can shoot the basketball? You pointed out a couple of times that, going to his right and shooting the three-point shot, he's very, very good at. But I think I'm going to have to see him play in this system with Luka and Kyrie on the floor just to see how effective and how he can be used to help this team win.
The one thing that jumped out to me, the play that was always the most dynamic for the Warriors was if he came off and got a Draymond Green handoff. Mm-hmm. Because you weren't guarding Draymond, because you were dropping off of Draymond because he wasn't a threat, and then Klay would come and get it, and then there's no help defense because they've dropped off Draymond. It's why Klay abused us with Rudy. The handoff from Kyrie or Luka is going to be pretty dynamic. You're so worried about Luka driving. You're so worried about Kyrie driving. You're defending. You're so focused on that. And Klay Thompson comes for a handoff. You're not going to be that. That means the defender of Luka or Kyrie has to get out to Klay Thompson. They're not going to be able to do it. That's going to be real. I think there's concerns in a lot of other ways, but that's going to be pretty awesome.
Let me add another concern here with Kyrie on this basketball. I mean, with Klay on this basketball team. There's going to be times, maybe he might get 15 shots a ball game. I think that might be rare. I think 10 at the most, something like that. How effective can he be with getting that few of his shots and what type of shots he's going to get? That's the reason I said I need to see him play with Kyrie and Luka out there on the floor. And because listening to Jason Kidd, it sounded like he was just looking at Klay Thompson as being a spot-up shooter, meaning playing off of Kyrie or playing off of playing off of Luka to the point where they're going to demand double teams and defense, that gimmick-type defense where Klay's going to get open looks.
All right, let's go back to the Jazz now. The most bizarre part of the night, and hopefully it does not have long-term ramifications, is Keyonte George in the early part of the third quarter hits a three. He gets bumped, and he falls into the 4 seats in the crowd that separate. They sell these. The Jazz bench is separated from the scorer's table, and they sell 4 front row seats for a few $1,000s a night. And those fans were in their luxury suite in the back getting their popcorn or whatever they're getting. And there was nobody in the seats. So when Keyonte fell, he fell further, and then there was nothing there to block him. Had there been humans there, he would have just fallen into them, and they would have held him up. But since nobody was there, he falls to the chairs, and the chairs fold all the way back to the ground. He falls all the way to the ground. He then, when he comes out of that, he starts to walk, and he literally looks like those YouTube videos you would watch of people falling on ice with his feet slipping. The analogy I gave was like, I don't know if anyone ever has this, but like someone cleans your floors and they use a little bit too much of the hardwood floor oil or something, and you walk by and you have this one spot of the floor that's super slippery, and you're like, that's what it felt like. It was like the little kid wearing socks instead of shoes, and mom says, put your shoes on or else you're going to slip and fall. And he looked like that, and so they stopped the action. He then rubbed his shoes on a bunch of towels. They cleaned up that whole area. But the next possession, when Keyonte brought the ball up the floor, his shoes still were slippery, and he slipped out from under himself very awkwardly and sprained his left knee. They're calling it a mild sprain of the left knee. I'm sure hopefully it all seems good, and they'll probably have to take some images and make sure. He did not put it was very scary. He was on the ground for quite some time. He looked in despair, and then he was carried off the floor, putting absolutely no weight on his left knee. It seemed like, hopefully disaster has not struck. But that was a super bizarre kind of moment, and really that hopefully will not turn out to be the story this night, but very well could be.
Yeah, and hopefully, David, as we mentioned, it is a mild sprain, which means that treatment, icing, and whatever they do to get that he'll be ready by the beginning of the season. X-rays or MRI will tell the story, but you're absolutely right about the way he slipped. It was the left knee that really gave way and put the right knee in a position where the left knee had to try to catch up or keep him from.
Well, he sprains the left knee. I just watched the replay again as you were talking. He almost sprained his right ankle, too. Like, his knee went out so far that his ankle twisted, and if you watch him when he goes down, he first grabs his right ankle, and then he goes to his left knee. I think he just may not have known everything. So we'll certainly hope that would just be a terrible thing. The veterans are playing the preseason better than the rookies. Like, this is not a surprise. Lauri was dominant, 26 points. Collin Sexton had 12. John Collins had 14. Jordan Clarkson had 13. These guys understand how to play NBA basketball, and it's really obvious that a lot of their other youngsters, other than Keyonte, who didn't get a lot of time last year, and those guys who've had no time, are really struggling right now.
Well, and look at the starting lineup there. That's the reason they're playing a lot of minutes here. They're trying to get this team ready for the beginning of the season with Markkanen and Taylor on that front court, where Taylor has not made that impact yet. And he's still have to figure it out. Collin Sexton, they think that he's better coming off the bench to the point where he's handling the basketball and he can get up 15, 16 shots.
You mean Jordan Clarkson?
No, Collin Sexton.
Collin Sexton coming off the bench. Okay.
But really glad to see Kessler with the way he's playing. But again, that starting five they wanted to get time for them to play on the floor.
And tonight they pulled Walker a little earlier. There was some substitution. If you go back and look at the substitution flow, I'll do this on Locked on Jazz tomorrow. It was a little different tonight. I'll have to go analyze it, look at the back at it. But I think Walker came off a little earlier. We had talked a little bit of the concern of whether Walker and Taylor really could play together, that both being non-offensive players. Seemed like John came in a little earlier tonight. Walker was really, really good tonight. And so there was some changing there. The youngsters, Hendricks 1 for 5, Cody Williams 1 for 2, Isaiah Collier 1 for 5. Bryce Sense about 2 for 11. So,
but I think that you look at the minutes. So if it's, the minutes tell you maybe that Will had some minutes in mind that he wanted to play these guys. Jason Kidd told us how many minutes he was going to play yesterday, but I'm looking at the minutes there, especially with the starters and all of them in the 20s, except for Taylor, who played 34 minutes. So it was like, and you could see that he was substituting freely, bringing guys in and taking them out. So hopefully they can continue to improve.
And you saw them work things. Taylor guarded Kyrie for a little bit. Then Cody Williams guarded Kyrie for a little bit. They're definitely taking advantage of the sample of all those things. And what your shooting percentage is doesn't necessarily dictate your night. Cody Williams the other night, Will Hardy really
except for that fourth quarter.
Yeah, that was pretty ugly. But the other night, Will Hardy complimented Cody Williams for the fact that he led the team in contested shots. Those are some of the things the coaches are looking at. Like the number I think I'd be interested on Taylor Hendricks in Will Hardy's mind is he had 2 points. I don't think Will Hardy cares. 6 rebounds in 34 minutes. I'd be interested if that's enough. Like, is Will all right with that, or does he think that he should have had more rebounds than that in 34 minutes? The other things
at this stage, coaches are finding things to compliment you.
Yeah,
I mean, they have to build the confidence in these players, especially if a player is playing maybe the way they want him to play, and you got to build him up. Say Taylor, for instance, maybe he's only going to get 8-9 shots a ball game, but and he comes out with 7 rebounds. So way to go, Taylor. We like the way you rebound. You build them up to make sure that their confidence stays where it needs to be in order to help the team.
Isaiah Collier led the Jazz with 7 assists. Walker Kessler led the team with 15 rebounds, and Lauri Markkanen had 26 points today. 6 Jazz players in double figures as they beat Dallas 107-102. We'll be in San Antonio on Saturday. I'll bring you Locked On Jazz tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Ron and I will bring you POSTCAST after every game all season long, so make sure you get used to being here for POSTCAST after every game. Have a great night. Be safe. Jazz win it again. Final score 107-102. We now send those of you on video to the first ever national sports channel, 24/7 channel, Locked On Sports Today, and on audio, check out Locked On NBA.